rewind to the beginning, but if you have gotten here and you're gonna ask a question, we won't be able to like answer it live because we'll be later. I'll try and get that in the chat if I am able to see that. So today I wanted to talk about foraging for holiday decor. I have so much stuff here on the table. So there's a lot to get through. And really how to like create elegance on like a total budget that costs really basically next to nothing. Most all of this stuff is actually in my current house for Christmas. So first, what I wanted to talk about is a little bit just about actually foraging. Number one, like literally the number one thing is know what poison ivy is. If you're gonna like go foraging in like a wooded area, really anywhere, you wanna obviously know what poison ivy is. So you wanna have like proper protection, boots, long pants, long sleeves, gloves, all of that type of stuff, unless you like really want to live on the edge. You also want to make sure that you know the legal aspects of like what you can and can't forage. You can actually get like permits to forage in the national forest. You also can obviously forage on any property that you have permission to. And you also in Texas can legally forage on the roadside as long as you take plants from the ground up. Like you can't uproot an entire plant and take it from there. There is so much around this time of year that you can forage. And the number one thing is magnolias. Magnolias, like sometimes those of us in Texas, because they're like very prevalent, we forget how glamorous magnolias are, and they are really, really, really gorgeous. I have a whole bunch of samples here of different stages of magnolias in their drying. I wanted to maybe go through that first so I can remove some of this stuff from the table. So if you're gonna forage live things and bring them in, especially a lot of the things this time of year, they're woody. Woody stems, hard woody stems. And so what that means is that you don't necessarily like have to have them immediately in water. And so there's a few things here. I'm going to go through and show you things, but this stuff right here, this magnolia, okay, this holly, and this holly, this is all like probably 5 days old. I'm going to try and get it a little closer to the camera so you can see. This is a drafting table that could have been a disaster. It still looks really great. The holly with the leaves is starting to dry a bit, but it's still really textural and like very pretty. So if you're gonna do an arrangement, a centerpiece, a spread, a spray, and you're gonna do it within, like, you're gonna make it to be presented within like 5, 6, 7 days, this is what it's gonna look like. And so you don't even really have to worry with most of this foliage about giving it water. Over here, I'm gonna come to the front. I have some things that I put up. Oh man, I'm like not really the best with dates right now. I think this has been out 3.5, maybe 4 weeks, okay? And so, first of all, this is gorgeous, but this is what's gonna happen to your magnolias if you don't have them in water. If I had these magnolias in water, they would still look totally fresh. So if you're making like a centerpiece, if you put your magnolias in water, they're gonna stay green. If you don't put them in water, they're gonna look like this, which, as I said, I personally find gorgeous. And this is holly after about 3 weeks. It's still very intriguing. It loses most of its red color. What I will say about a lot of these hollies, at this point, we're still okay for the most part. we get much after this and the holly's gonna shed. If you have dogs and cats that eat stuff, you wanna make sure that this is out of their realm, okay? Now, moving on with magnolias, I made a garland, I made several garlands probably like 6 weeks ago. So if you wanted to make a magnolia garland, let me tell you, these things are so expensive. People outside of our area especially decorate for Christmas with magnolias, and you know magnolias only grow in the south. So there's so many people who don't have access to them. They are so expensive. We honestly literally thought about like solely being a magnolia foliage farm. It's like a little boring, you know? Okay, so there's 2 garlands on this table that I made 6 weeks ago. If you make a magnolia garland and want it to last the whole season and want to do nothing with it, this is what it is going to look like. It's going to go through all of these stages. So a few weeks ago, the leaves looked like this. Okay, I specifically did Mr. Cheapo spray painting on this so that you could see that as it does dry, it's going to chip. Take this one off to show you. Okay, it's going to chip. If you want to go the real length spray painting, okay, you need to start with a primer. And then you want to put your paint coat on, and then we're going to need to seal it. You want to follow the directions on your can, and I would not follow the second coat within 45 minutes. It needs to dry 24 hours, so this is a 3-day thing. If you want those to really last. What I like to do is refill these as you go on, okay? So, we have several different types of magnolia leaves that we can use. If you have constant access, like you have your own magnolias, then you have lots of access to your green leaves, okay? You can just take the green leaves. I don't know if you guys can see this. Thanks, Aaron. I like seeing you here. Okay. I'm not going to actually do some of these things, but I'm just kind of giving you an idea that you can constantly be coming up to your magnolia foliage throughout the season and refreshing it, okay? If you don't want to do the 3-day spray painting, you can just do 1-day spray painting, and if they're peeling, you can stick them back in. This gives it a lot of depth, okay? And the more that you put in, the more 3-dimensional it's going to get. You can use the brown sides. They're going to stay brown, so that's really textural and pretty. I love, love, love that. Okay, now, segueing into preserved foliage. Somewhere here, I have some preserved magnolia leaves. I'm going to take this big garland away. This is a fresh magnolia leaf, and this is a preserved magnolia leaf. I have a couple of them here. You can preserve foliage very easily at home with glycerin. You can get glycerin at the pharmacy in a little bottle. You can also order it online on Amazon by the gallon, whatever. This foliage has been dipped in glycerin for 6 days. Okay, so its transition to brown is delayed a bit. This is probably 3 weeks old out of the glycerin. It's been out of the glycerin for 3 weeks. What happens with glycerin is this should be like this, okay? It should break, but it is pliable, and this will last indefinitely. It is going to turn brown. But if we want to start garland with preserved magnolias, this is what it's going to be. So one thing that what I like to do is I like to make the base, wreath, garland, whatever, with preserved leaves, okay? Because those are going to look that way forever. And that's my base. And then each season, throughout the season, I stick in new pieces because we have magnolias totally available to us. Now, moving on just a little bit to glycerin foliage. A lot of woody foliage around us we can preserve. Here are a few whole magnolia stems that are preserved. This is just as it's come out of the glycerin. You can see how it's pretty dark brown. And then what we do is we bleach, we sun bleach it. Okay, and it takes like all the chlorophyll out, and this is kind of what we're left with. And so it's pliable just like the other. It's not going to break. It's going to last indefinitely like this. And you also can dye this. I'm not going to get into all of that today, but most all of this foliage here you can preserve. When you're going to preserve it with glycerin, for now, it's going to turn this brown color. I love it in the fall, okay? This is also preserved foliage. This is privet, and privet is actually ligustrum. And if you don't have ligustrum in your yard, your neighbor does, and if they don't, their neighbor does, for sure. This was preserved by the stem absorption method. And so there's two different ways to use glycerin to preserve foliage. If you want to learn more about this, go to our website, wait like 10 seconds, there will be a pop-up, put your name in the email, and I talk about preserving foliage throughout the year. You make a solution of glycerin and water, you let the foliage soak it up, then this has been sun bleached afterwards. From here you can see how like if you have like a dark jewel tone dye, you can also dye these stems. So like you can make it like an emerald green, a hunter green, a navy, various jewel tones. Really, 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 really pretty. But I like it in the fall just as is. You know, you never need to do anything. It needs no water, nothing, okay? And it will stay malleable and like this indefinitely. Holly that is preserved with glycerin here, this was done in a soak. So it was put in a glycerin bath for 6 days. I think this is kind of chic as is. And then I also have sprayed it here. Okay, and I didn't even do a full coverage spray on this because I thought like, it's kind of gorgeous. Now, with glycerin, preserved foliage, you will find that it is easy to scrape this spray paint off. So it is like a little fragile. There's ways and things we can do to make like the color last on these kind of things that are preserved, but it's a lot more involved. And so just know, like when we're going this route, you want to keep this out of like heavy use areas, or know that like you're gonna see little scratches on the paint. I'm getting a lot of stuff out of here. Okay, so a can of spray paint at the holidays, like seriously, my best friend. And glitter, duh, but anyway. This here is actually fall aster. In the country, like it is everywhere. I think it's like the first thing that grows when like you plow land or there's a fire, anything like that. It's like these little purple flowers, and it kind of looks like baby's breath. We have so much of this. So I dried it, and then like I sprayed it in different colors. Like I actually have a larger spray of this up on my mantle with a lot of this different stuff. You can do this with baby's breath. And baby's breath is actually a little better than aster because aster sheds a bit. Baby's breath, if you dry it right, is not going to. So, you know, baby's breath is not incredibly expensive to buy a bunch. I know people like sometimes don't like baby's breath. It's crazy, because if used right, it is like, it can be super gorgeous, and there is so much that you can do with it when it's dried, okay? And like with some spray paint, it can really apply to any kind of situation that you have. Here's another piece of preserved eucalyptus foliage. And what's cool, just a note, like to people who are like our subscribers or wanting to become a subscriber, our foliage is everything that we bring is so fresh, like it is within hours of coming from the field. And so when you get something from a florist, like it could be very old because of all the amount of steps like it has to go through. So with our foliage, and we'll let you know when we're including these kinds of things in your bouquets, like eucalyptus, that we grow. Mostly that's going to be available from like the fall on. That you can preserve this on your own. You can either dry it, or you can use the glycerin method, and we'll give you instructions on how to do that. And because it's so fresh, you can leave it in your bouquet for like 3 or 4 days, and then dry it and do the preservation method. And so that is just like kind of the unique thing about when you have things, when you have floral items that are so fresh. Okay, back to magnolias. I'm jumping around. This is also a this is significantly old because I want to talk about these parts of these seed pods. They are gorgeous, and if you haven't looked up close at them, you've been missing out, okay? I really feel like magnolia seed pods should be the new pine cone. If you take them off of the tree when they're enclosed, like these red pods are enclosed and the seed pod is like peach colored, it will progress all the way through the stages. It will release these. Here's one that I actually took off. I broke this, but I took this whole thing off when it was peach, and just let it transition through all the stages. This is maybe one of my favorite like centerpiece items ever, and I just snapped it off a tree, okay? It still releases all of these, the actual seeds are encased in these pockets here. It retains this fuzzy texture and size. I'm obsessed with this, okay? These leaves will like come in as they dry. You can have like a whole spray of this, with this on the end, just on your table, up on a shelf. It is gorgeous. Okay, continuing on with the seed pods, the magnolia seed pods. Here's the various stages of them. And then they go dark brown, okay? If you want to do this for one season, just pick them up and go with it. If you want these things to last, you're gonna want to heat preserve them. And that is just like baking them in an oven at a low temperature for a long amount of time to get all of the moisture out of them so they don't decay in the future. If you just want to get her done, it may last for more than one season, but if it's not like heat preserved, it's probably going to fall apart at some point. These take spray paint really well. It's very like multi-dimensional. You can keep going until you get like a high gloss, or you can leave it where like you still have some dimension of the original color showing through. I did not have it together enough to mix up my borax solution because this kind of borax crystals doesn't take as much time as like kid science experiment borax crystals. Okay, so all over the internet you can find a recipe for borax crystals. You take hot water, I think it's like 3 tablespoons of borax per cup of water. It needs to be hot water so you can dissolve it. You're making a super saturated solution of borax water, okay? And it needs to be hot. As it cools to room temperature is the process where things will crystallize. It is hard to get crystals to stay on a smooth surface, but Do you know what is not a smooth surface? Are pine cones, seed pods, stems, holly stems like this, okay? I do. I have 2 of these. Okay, and so, oh, hold on 1 second. Okay, Jake, I don't know what I held up. So if you could just, oh, the red, are you talking about the Magnolia seed pod? I just spray painted it. That's it. I literally took, my favorite spray paint is this Rust-Oleum 2X. It's like a double coat in one, and it usually says primer and paint. You still need a primer on these foliage kinds of things if you really want it to try and last, but it still may not last. This is like cheap, economical, quick route of things, and like most people like to change their stuff every year anyway, so I like that. I like to do that. Okay, yes, this is just spray paint. It is just a lacquered spray paint. That's it. Lacquer. It's a high gloss. Okay. So here, this is where it gets really cool, and this is so fun to do with your kids. Okay. You can take any kind of container. You're going to put this borax solution in it, and then you want to submerge what you want to have crystals grown on it. So you can take a holly stem and just dip it upside down. You can float things in it, you can submerge them, you can hang them on a string, and this is what you're going to get. This is very, very, very cool. Okay? I think it's amazing. It is really, really neat. You can do this with all kinds of things. I didn't have everything together today. I'm sorry. But I even did this. I just threw stuff on the ground. I even did this with dried goldenrod that, you know, like has this droopy kind of shape. And I put it upside down, put it in the tub, and I left it. You want to leave these things to get these small crystals, like really, like you need to start checking it within 3 hours, because otherwise it's going to get these huge covering, and that may not be what you want. In any event, you will want to kind of leave it in there for about 3 hours, and you'll get those crystals on it. If it's very humid where you're keeping them in the future, those crystals can go away. But as long as, you know, we live in a humid environment, but indoors with AC, heater on, whatever, they won't go away. They will not go away. Okay, back to magnolias. I love the magnolias. Okay, this I love. So stunning. It's too much. Even more. Okay. As we talked, this is all going to depend on how long you want your material to really last. If you do this, if you spray paint fresh foliage, this is fresh foliage, you can keep it in water, okay, and it will last this pretty significant time. I mean, you have messed with it with the spray paint, but this like waxy coated leaf usually lasts. If you don't have it in water, it's going to progress through each of these drying stages. And so as it really curls up, you're going to get flaking on these leaves. I just replaced them because I have access to magnolias, okay? And so like I like to change things up. However, you can do preserve. You could preserve these in glycerin first, and then they're never going to fold. Some of that glycerin will come through, and you can scrape off the paint, but you can touch this up. You can touch it up. If you missed the part about glycerin foliage, it's earlier in the video. Okay, so anyway, I bet you did not realize that magnolias could be this pretty. And hello, Christmas, they are stars. They are literally stars, okay? Now, what is really fun is when you spray your seed pods, okay, you can put them back together. I am really not super classy today. I don't have floor wire, but I do have pipe cleaners, okay? And so, this one, I like this. I like this, okay. So, you can take your gold star magnolia, and you can take your red seed pod, and you can put them together, and it is gorgeous, okay? This is like so luxe, and honestly, like, okay, this is 2 bottles of spray paint, so this cost me $10. My holiday decor this year cost me $10. Okay, I have this like on the mantle, I have it everywhere. I have, you know, holly resting with it. You cannot beat this. You really cannot beat this. Also, throughout the year, I did this one with sage green. There's 2 different, this is the same paint. This is very heavily coated, so it's like a high gloss. Super, super chic. But this is also really pretty. This is like incomplete coverage. There's so much that you can do with a can of spray paint and this foliage, y'all. Like, I'm serious. If you have any questions, let me know. If you have questions in the future, you can just email me. All my contact information is like super readily available. Now we're gonna make a little centerpiece together. Oh, here's another like trash piece that is like, it's too much. Okay, these, I found this in the floor of my garage, which I was using as a cutting space at one point. And there are these, they're called like Maximilian sunflowers. They are roadside sunflowers that grow like on, you know, 3 to 4 foot stems. And they have like 6-inch, 8-inch stemmed small sunflowers that kind of look like a daisy almost, that come up all off of them. They are very cute. And so normally, like if this is the stem of them, like there would be sunflower, 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 sunflower. These are like the seed pods at the end, okay, before they became seed pods. So right as the sunflowers were finished, okay, I plucked off the petals and they hadn't converted, obviously, to seeds. And so I dried them. Well, I didn't do it like that. They literally dried on the ground. But I was using some of these texturally, just without the petals, in some fall arrangements. And so they were just left on the ground. They dried. And so I sprayed them red. And they're gorgeous. Super, super gorgeous. I'm a big, big fan in arrangements of spray painting mason jars. I mean, we're a farm. We're dealing with farm flowers. It just like is really like organic and goes together. And this is something that you can do as well in your house. It just gives this like really nice nature to like a forage kind of arrangement. So I foraged several things. This is Yopon holly, okay? Yopon is used a lot as like a landscape accent. So you may know somebody who has this. It is native to our area. Once you get out into the country, you'll see like the big oak trees, and when they take those big mowers out, they can't get under the oak trees. So when they mow those fields for hay and whatever, native things grow up all under those oak trees, and that's like the most common place you're going to find Yopon. You'll also find it on like a lot of cow pastures that have brush that's grown up along the barbed wire fences and stuff. And as I mentioned, it's a really great like landscape plant. So you could intentionally grow this for holiday decor. This is my favorite stems of holly. Okay, really, really love them. You can glycerin preserve this, and what it's going to do is turn these berries dark. They will shrivel a bit, but like they'll stay on the stem pretty well. I also have, or like traditional holly. This is a landscape plant that thrives in our area. So I imagine you do know somebody who has this. If your holly does not produce berries like this, you are pruning it too aggressively and or at the wrong time of year. Most hollies bloom or berry on like second year growth. So you could be cutting off what would be second year growth the next year, or if you're cutting like too aggressively, you're cutting the existing second year growth off. And so that's why maybe you don't have the amount of holly that you really would like. Oh, this is like a tree garland. So pretty. Okay, I just hot glued these pieces onto like a burlap ribbon, and it is so pretty and cute. Okay, so first thing that I want to get in here is my trash pieces to give a little bit of height and interest. Okay, and so what I did inside of this, especially because these are woody, like I don't even really care so much about the water preservation for them, because like it doesn't have to last like forever. But I just put some Florifoam in the bottom. What I often do, and that's not gonna work. Where's the lid? Let's pretend there's a lid on there. There's a lid somewhere, and it's painted too. Anyway, what I often do on a mason jar vase is I make a grid for the top out of hardware cloth, and you just fit it to the top of the lid, and then you put it on here. And so what is very cool about that is you can take things, and you don't have to like have this massively filled bouquet, and you can stick it in the grid, and like it's gonna be held in place without all these other things. So it's a great assistance if like, you know, you don't really want to be like a floral designer all the time, okay? Because not everybody has time for that, right? Okay. I think I like these three in here. What I also have, probably poking a few too many holes in some of this. Okay, what I also have is magnolias. Okay, and I have the painted magnolias we can use too. Okay, so here I just want like a little bit of this dark greenery. So don't forget, all of this can be foraged in our area so easily. Like so easily. And what is really cool about this, what I'm trying to show you, is like when you forage materials that are actively grown, it is so easy to make them look glorious in an arrangement. Okay. One thing that I do like to do in an arrangement, if I'm using magnolias, is I like to cut a big piece of the spray, okay, and I would usually leave it on the table. You can do like this. You could do several different things. Anyway, as I mentioned, magnolias are so expensive in the rest of the country. People have no idea how prevalent they are here, and people who are here have no idea how lucky they are. Okay, I wanted to do a little bit of holly cascading down, and I wanted to do a little bit of holly coming up. So the various kinds of holly are nice because I don't know if you can see this really well. The holly with the leaves gives a nice additional green sort of flavor to things, and this bold statement holly coming out the top Also, I know most of us have access to pine trees, okay? And everything that I've done here with magnolia seed pods, you can do with pine cones, okay? We are very lucky. There are so many southern pines everywhere. So you don't even necessarily think of it. But, you know, red and green is Christmas. So if you take pine cone and you spray it like this and you stick them all in a vase in the centerpiece, you have a gorgeous decoration. You can use these kind of items in a piece. I'm going for a little bit more of a natural look, even though I've got my sunflower stems right here. Can you see this? Yeah, okay, you can see it there. Now, what I want to do is I want to get in some of these really beautiful holly stems, okay? And these stems here, if we have them in water, are going to lack. So, if you want to do something like this, you can make it in advance of when you want to display it, okay? Sometimes when we're going to forage for stuff, we are not quite as lucky on timing, and like you're going to have to do it the same day. Most of this you do not. Can we get that enough? Yeah, I don't like it double. Johann is gorgeous. I love the tall stems. Okay, so here, literally, all we have done is gone foraging, grabbed easily accessible things, a bottle of spray paint, and we have a glorious centerpiece. This is really pretty, okay? It is very pretty. It looks high dollar. Okay, and then you can have your table spray like this. You can add a few accessories, maybe even a natural one. Who wants natural? It is Christmas. Where's the gold one? Let's pretend there's a gold one. How could I lose the gold one? I'll go with green then. And here you go. Now, back to spray painting these vases. It is also something you want to follow the 3 steps that I mentioned. You want to use the spray primer. Let it dry for 24 hours. You want to paint your top color coat. This you can do 2 coats within 45 minutes. Let it dry for 24 hours and then put your clear top coat on. It's still spray paint on glass, like will roughen up, but if you are careful with it, it will last. It will last a very long time. Okay, so that is, I believe, everything that I figured we would talk about today. I'm trying to look through my list. I made a list. I think I had it all. Okay. If you have any questions on any of this, if you're watching a replay, you can all see your comments if you comment there. You also can send a message to the page. You can email me. There we go. Anytime you watch a live, there will be a discount code where if you want to buy a subscription during a live, it is there. If you are watching a replay, sorry, the code is no longer active. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to do this kind of regularly with different things, especially throughout the seasons. with different home decor kind of things you can do with stuff that's around you, or things that you can do that are a lot cheaper to have like a super elegant look. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you soon.